Stephanie's Wild Ride is the 9th episode of Season 8 of Full House. This is directed by John Tracy, and as always there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. And while this might be one of the strongest Full House episodes, it's uncomfortable to watch. But that's kind of why it's very powerful, because it is so effective. But that means I don't find it to be an enjoyable experience, but certainly worthwhile. As always, I'll talk about the narratives in turn, so I'll talk about the story focusing on Michelle first of all, and then I'll talk about Stephanie and Gia, because that's the main focus. We have a very cute introduction. Joey, Nicky and Alex are sitting together with Mr. Woodchuck. Mr. Woodchuck is telling the story of the Billy Goat Scruff, and it's adorable. It's a really sweet way to start things off. Michelle is playing with a video game. She's playing a video game and she asks Jesse for help. Jesse says he was more into pinball. He's not very good at video games. And then he starts playing and he becomes hooked. And then Joey joins in. And then Danny joins in. And then Becky joins in. And this isn't immediate. This is gradually throughout the episode. And Michelle just has to sit there and watch the grown-ups play her video game, which I thought was rather, well, frustrating for Michelle, but tremendous fun for us as viewers to see the adults being engrossed in video games. And I feel like maybe it would have been more impactful at the time. I could be wrong about this, but I feel like it's now more acceptable today for adults playing video games. I think it's generally widely accepted that video games are not just for children, whereas maybe when this was released that might not have been quite as common an opinion, so I think it might have been even more powerful. But certainly watching it now, it was good fun, and it's nice to see them all working together. And they get called, DJ calls them into the kitchen for dinner, and they all wolf down their food really quickly, very much like a child would do when they want to get back to playing whatever they were playing. So I liked it. It was a nice bit of humour to break up the much more serious main narrative. And this is the bit that I don't like, but I have nothing but praise for. This is focusing on Stephanie and Gia, of course, and they're at the mall. We get an establishing shot of the mall. We have the food court. It's a different set, and it works really well. And they bump into two guys, Barry and Jason, played by James Allen Gilliam and Scott Whyte, and Stephanie and Gia pretend to be 16 because these boys are older, and they believe them. DJ and Kimmy randomly turn up at the mall, and DJ finds out that Stephanie is pretending to be older, and she doesn't stop Stephanie. I'm not really sure what she could have done in the moment, but she didn't seem too concerned, which in itself felt a little uncomfortable, but nevertheless, DJ is fine with it. She leaves. And then Gia tells her that one of the boys has his driving license, so they're going to get into his car and they're going to give them a lift home. Stephanie doesn't want to do this. Her gut reaction was no. But quite quickly, Gia does convince Stephanie. And it's been quite a few episodes where Gia's been a bad influence outright. She's not been the nicest character. She still belittles Michelle when she talks to her. But in general, she's been pleasant enough. But here we are reminded of the fact that ultimately Gia is not a good influence. And we see them in the car, and again, it's something a little bit different. It's not the kind of footage we usually get for Full House, and they're speeding, and it's really suspenseful. They drive on the wrong side of the road, and Stephanie is uncomfortable. But I think what's more unnerving is that once she experiences, I guess, the thrill of it, I don't really want to use that word, that seems too positive, but once she experiences this thrill of speeding and being on the wrong side of the road and I guess having these near-death experiences, she starts to enjoy it. And that's the biggest problem. Had she been scared throughout the entire experience, it would maybe suggest that this would be a one-time thing. But she really started to enjoy it. And that's the main problem. And sometime later, Gia comes over to Stephanie's and tells her that the guys are outside with the car, they're going out for a ride again, and DJ tells Stephanie she's not going. And massive credit to DJ, because had she not done this, things could have been disastrous. DJ threatens to tell Danny, and ultimately Stephanie stays. And I think the fact that Stephanie didn't want DJ to tell Danny means that she knows this is not a good idea. And it means that she knows that this is a problem. And I think that's quite significant. that there was still that part of her that acknowledged that this wasn't a good idea, whereas I don't get that impression with Gia. I don't for one second think that Gia had any doubts about this. Whereas as much as Stephanie was enjoying it, I think there is that part of her that's still saying this isn't a good idea. And thankfully, she doesn't go, and she's really annoyed at DJ for stopping her fun. And they get into an argument, but then Danny comes into the room. This is a little while later, and it's very clear that something has happened. And there's no suspense. We find out immediately. He'd just received a phone call from Gia's mother. Gia was in a car accident, and one of the guys broke his leg. And needless to say, it's heavily implied there that had Stephanie got in the car, things could have been horrific. And it's a really heavy moment. Part of me wishes that they decided to make it more severe to really drive home the fact that this is not a good idea. Obviously, a broken leg is terrible, but it will heal. They will get over it, and they'll probably, unfortunately, go back to the same behaviour. Maybe not. Maybe it could be a wake-up call, but I'm not hopeful. But had something much darker happened, it would have been a much more powerful message. Maybe not to Gia, maybe to one of the guys, but that's obviously not the road they decided to go down. And yes, it's a sitcom, so it can't get too heavy, but at the same time, would it really be that heavy if somebody Stephanie had just met had died in a horrific way? They kill off characters at other points, so maybe not. I don't know. I just think they could have been more impactful by making a much more powerful moment. But that being said, it still drives home the message that this was a terrible idea, and you can get into a really difficult situation. And Stephanie obviously is very clearly trying to not show her emotions, but also we the viewer know that she's clearly running things through her head. Had she got into the car, had DJ not stopped her, it could have ended disastrously. And DJ tells Danny, because it seems like Danny's about to find out that Stephanie almost went, DJ tells Danny when Gia showed up with those guys, Steph decided not to go. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. Stephanie being looked out for by her sister, obviously that's a great thing. DJ having her back, that's a great thing. But also, I feel like if Stephanie's starting to make really reckless decisions, it could be really helpful for Danny to know that information. But then at the same time, if she's learned her lesson and she's never going to do this again, why worry Danny needlessly? So I don't know. I don't know if it's the right thing or not for DJ to have said that, but certainly it was a moving moment when DJ had Stephanie's back. And then it ends with DJ telling Stephanie, it's not funny, but within the context of the episode, it kind of lifted the mood a bit, because she was telling Stephanie about this ridiculous time when she was 13, when she and Kimmy stayed out all night and they hitchhiked, and it was a dangerous situation. And as DJ pointed out, eventually as you grow older, you'll start to hear your own voice. And there was this beautiful line. I didn't write it down, and I'm kicking myself for not writing it down because it was so beautifully presented. But it was basically, the voice you hear now is Danny's, but as you grow older, that voice will hopefully turn into yours. Basically, the lessons Danny is teaching you now, talking to Stephanie, will eventually become things that you believe and that you understand. And I thought it was beautifully done. So it is a really solid episode with a lot to offer. I think it could have been a bit more impactful, but I'm also aware that it is a sitcom and they rarely get that heavy. But at the same time, I don't enjoy it. I honestly think, I don't know if I think this about any other episode, but getting emotional. I don't know why. Well, it's an emotional episode, but I didn't cry when I was watching it, so I'm not entirely sure why I'm getting emotional now. I honestly think I would skip this episode if I'm binge watching season 8, because it's just really difficult to watch. But that's to the episode's credit. I think they did a fantastic job, but I don't want to watch it again. I'm sure I'll watch it again at some point, but I would never choose it. If I'm in the mood for a Full House episode, Stephanie's Wild Ride will not be one that I would choose to watch, but not because it's not good. On the contrary, it's very powerful, very effective, very important, and ultimately a really solid episode of Full House.